morning, good afternoon, good evening. You're welcome to Cel-fie with Sam. My name is Sam. So sorry, you're not going to see my face today. Alright, today we'll be looking at genetics. So what is genetics? When you say genetics, what comes to your mind? Now, this topic is a very interesting topic in science, and I would encourage us to pay good attention and to get to understand all there is about this topic. All right, what is genetics? What comes to your mind when you say genetics? What comes to your mind? Now look at the pictures of these gentlemen you have there on the screen. If you look at the first one, you can see it's kind of a father and the son, and the second one as well. Now, if you look at these two pictures, these two pairs, you will see something they have in common, and that is the resemblance. Now, from me looking at it, you can easily say that this is this person's son, or this person's father, or any other way you want to go about it. Okay, now this is about genetics. Now this is trying to show us that there is a pair of there are some characteristics, there are some traits, there are some features that is being transferred from the parents to the offspring. Okay, so that is in a nutshell what genetics is. So what is the meaning of the word genetics? Now, say genetics is a science of heredity. It's a science of heredity. So what is heredity? This genetics studies the heredity and variation of inherited characters. Now, when we talk about heredity, we're looking at those things that is being transferred from parent to the offspring. That's what we call heredity. When we talk about variation, we're looking at the differences between these characteristics that is being transferred. Take, for instance, height. Height can be tall or short. Complexion can be fair or dark, and so on and so forth. So think of two siblings that came from same mother and same father. You will discover that both of them are not looking the same. Now think of when you have male and female. So variation there is the differences in the genes they inherited from their parents. When you talk about male and female, you can see it's obvious that the differences is in the X and the Y chromosome that was being transferred during meiosis. Okay, same goes for same sex. When you have both male, you can have one to be fair, the other one to be dark. That is the different what varies between the genes that they inherited from their parents. You get to see how these genes work as we go on with this topic. Okay, again, heredity deals with transfer of genes from parent to its offspring. Now variation deals with the varying characteristics or features in inherited traits. Now I mentioned that. Now there are sometimes you will come across the phrase where they combine the two, or the word heredity and variation together. They call it hereditary variation. So what is hereditary variation? Now when we talk about hereditary variation, we look at the differences in the genes, or differences in the characteristics that is being transferred from parent to offspring. The differences. Okay, so that is the concept here. So like I said, we have genetics. Genetics is the science that deals with heredity. When we talk about heredity, we're looking at those things that is being transferred from the parent to the offsprings. Then we talk about variation. We'll look at the differences that exist between these characteristics that's being transferred. Okay, in genetics they call it alleles, but you get to see that as we move on with this topic. Okay, so moving on, let's see. Now, genetics as a whole is being accredited to a man called Gregor Mendel. Now, he's known as the father of genetics. Now, he's an Australian monk. He lived 1822 to 1884. He worked on garden pea. Now, he loved farming. He had a small garden in his house that he used to plant something. And this particular occasion is about the garden pea. So he planted this pea plant, and he discovered some certain features, some things that are very special and unique about the plant, and that's what brought about the study of genetics. Okay, now he said his work remained hidden for over 34 years until it was rediscovered in 1900, and that is after his death. So this man discovered this, and nobody took it serious. And it was not rediscovered after he's no more. That's 34 years after. Now, if you read about this man, you will discover that he knows nothing about DNA. He knows nothing about genes. He just discovered something that's unique, that is hidden inside a seed. So he started studying about it, but he didn't have this clear understanding of what it is, because he didn't study genes in school, if at all he went to any school. Okay, so that is he was the first person that discovered it, and that's why all credit is given to him. That refer to him as father of genetics. Okay, and and then he came up with different laws, about three of them. We call it Mendel's law of inheritance, or you can call it Mendelism. Okay, all right, let's move on and see some of the terminologies used in genetics. Now, when you talk about terminology, you look at most common terms you use in this course. Now, one of them is gene. We've gene from the word genetics, the genes. When you talk about gene, what comes to your mind? Here we say it is the hereditary determining factor of inheritance. Now, what determines someone to be a male or female is the gene. Now, what gene is that? That's the gene that's the gene called X and Y, or the sex gene, the gene that determines the sex. Okay. All right. So this gene is located at a particular position within a chromosome. We'll get to understand what chromosome is, or better still, refer to my previous videos to get to know the structure of chromosome, how chromosome functions. Okay, so within this chromosome is where the gene is located, is what we call the locus. Now, locus is from the word location. Now, this is where this gene is located. Okay, now there's a section of the gene. Now, when you talk about a gene, you know that gene is what make up the DNA, and then the DNA coils up to form the chromosome, and the chromosome is found within the nucleus of the cell. Now, a DNA, we said a strand of DNA, you said, is about 7 feet tall in length, and each strand contains millions of genes. Now, these genes are located within different sections of the chromosome. So that's what we call locus. Now, when this chromosome coils up, you will see it more visible when it coils up to form the chromosome. So let's say when the DNA coils up, it forms the chromosome. So DNA is not seen until it's coiled up, or it condenses to form the chromosome. Okay. So within that chromosome is where you have the locus. Now you get to see it more. Now, examples, we talk about gene being a carrier of traits. Now here you have example like eye color. Eye color is a trait. Hairstyle is also a trait. Now eye color can be blue, it can be brown, it can be other colors. Okay. Now then when we talk about traits, say there are heritable characteristics, like they say traits for eye color. Say the person inherited brown eye. So that is the trait that the person inherited. Okay. All right, so moving on more. Okay, look at this now. This here, what we have here, this rod-like structure here. Sorry. Now this structure here is the chromosome. This is the chromosome. Now this chromosome carries, from the picture you have right here, this chromosome carries two traits. One for eye color, which is this. Another one for hair color, which is this. Now you can see now the location. This is located here, this one is located here. So that's what we call the loci. Now loci is from the word from the word we have singular and plural in English. Okay. Now you can see where the eye color is located. That's what we call the loci. You can see where the hair color is located. That's what we call the loci for hair color. So that's what I mean by locus. Okay. Another terminologies here, we have the alleles. Now, alleles, also known as allelomorph. Now, they are a pair of genes that carry the same trait and are located at same place in pair of chromosomes. Now you will get to see that in the next slide. Now, we talk about alleles. You can use the word. So alleles are the different types of gene. No, so genes occur in pairs. Genes occur in pairs. So if there's a gene for tau, it can either be a heterozygous tau or it can be a homozygous tau. Don't worry, we'll get to see about that. Now, we talk about alleles. We're looking at alleles is being more specific. Now, trying to identify the exact type of gene Okay, so we say we have to say alleles are also known as allele but they are pair of genes. Now they occur in pairs. Take for instance someone who is tall. Okay, look at the example we have here. You can see the trait for height. You can see the trait for height. Now let me say this person is tall, and then let's assume that this person's gene for tall is this big T, small t. Remember I told you genes occur in pairs. So this particular big T here is the dominant one. Now this is allele A and this is allele B. Let me use the word allele A and allele B. Now the allele A and allele B. Now allele exists in two forms. Alleles exist in two forms. We have the what we call the dominant alleles and we have the what we call the recessive alleles. Now dominant alleles are always written in capital letter, while recessive are always written in small letter. Now look at this individual here. This individual here is tall, but this individual here is a carrier of dominant allele and the recessive allele. You can see now these two alleles they differ. They differ in their characteristics. Now what is their characteristics? Characteristics there is what they show. Now this big one now is went to tall, while the small one is went to short. First of all, so I say traits is height. So you can looking at traits for height, and now the character that this trait carries is either tall or short. So this person is tall because of the dominant allele, and anywhere dominant allele exists, it always manifests. Anywhere there's a dominant allele, it always manifests. Now dominant allele cannot be overshadowed, it always manifests. But when the time there is a recessive allele, now recessive allele can only manifest if the two alleles are recessive. Or you can say in the absence of a dominant allele, recessive allele will manifest. That's what we call recessive short. Okay, now where there is no dominant allele, recessive allele will manifest. But where there's dominant allele, the dominant allele will always overshadow the recessive allele. Okay, so this person is tall. Look at another person, another individual here. This individual here also is tall. Why? The two alleles are dominant. Remember I told you alleles are written in capital letter. So if you see that in the exam and you're asked to identify them, look at the one in capital letter. Okay, now look at another individual here. Now this individual here is short. Now here we have two recessive alleles. Now let's say when two recessive alleles manifest, well, in the presence of two recessive alleles, the character for those recessive alleles will show in the presence of two recessive alleles. But in the presence of a dominant allele, the dominant one will always overshadow or mask the recessive one. So this person is tall, while this person is short. So this person is a carrier of short gene, while this one is not carrying any, is not a carrier of any short gene, while this person is short. Okay, so take note of that, take note of the traits, take note of the characters, then take note of the dominant and the recessive alleles. Okay, so that's for allele. So let's move on to the next. Now here we have two chromosomes. So this is chromosome A and this is chromosome B. Now if you look at these two chromosomes, you can see, you can identify the locus. Number one, first of all, look at the chromosome and identify the locus. Now having identified that, now these are the locus. Locus is position of different genes. The position of different genes, that's the locus. Now they've given us a key here. Now this key is showing us that the blue one, the blue shows this is allele for trait for eye color. This is a trait for eye color. Okay, and this trait carries two alleles. The recessive one is the blue eye, that's why it's colored blue, while the recessive one is the brown eye, that's why it's colored brown. Now in some cases they will use blue eye as a recessive, so take note of the keys. Always look out for the keys and see what the keys represent. Now they've shown us that the allele for blue eye is recessive, while the allele for brown eye is dominant. Okay, so in this case now, if you look at these two alleles here, what will be the color of this individual A? What will be the color of this individual A? Now the color of this individual A is going to be the eye color of this individual A is going to be what? Brown. Now think for a second, why is brown? Why is it not blue? Now the reason is because the allele that is dominating is a brown one because of the key. So the key showed us that a brown eye allele is the dominant one, while the blue eye is the recessive one. Okay, so coming to individual A, so we call this person heterozygous. Now why is it called heterozygous? Heterozygous is when the two alleles are not the same. For example, if I'm to use a letter to represent this, I will call this brown big capital letter B because they say it is dominant, and then the blue I will use small letter b. So this is this person's two alleles, the two alleles this individual A is carrying. So he's carrying a dominant brown eye and a recessive blue eye. So that's why I use the word heterozygous. Heterozygous is when the two alleles are contrasting, they are not the same. Now we come to the second one. Look at the individual B. Look at the two alleles here. Now you can see the two of them are both allele for brown eye. So the allele here is going to be big B, big B. So this person is brown eye because the two alleles for eye color is dominating. Okay, so we call this one homozygous. The word homo means similar. The word homo means similar. Okay, so individual A is a heterozygous brown eye individual, while individual B is a homozygous brown eye. Okay, now look at look at individual C. This one is also homozygous, but in this case is a recessive. Remember I told you. So the chromosome that the allele this person is carrying is going to be small b, small b. I told you when the two recessive alleles are present, the recessive will manifest. But if they have one dominant will always overshadow the recessive. Okay, so we call this one homozygous recessive. Now why is it homozygous? Because the two alleles are the same. And why did they bring in recessive? Is because the two alleles are recessive. Now you can easily say that this person is homozygous dominant. Now you can put it that way for individual B. You can call the individual B homozygous dominant. You can call individual C homozygous recessive. But you can't call individual A homozygous dominant or homozygous recessive because they are not homo. Okay, they are heterozygous. Okay, I believe you understand that. If you don't, you can drop a comment on the comment box. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. All right, so let's move on. Now, still on the terminologies. Now, look at this one. We have the homozygous. Okay, I've talked about this homozygous. The zygote with two of same kind of gene for a particular trait. Why heterozygous? When organism has two different genes of a given trait. Now, two different genes. Now, the genes are in alleles. Okay. Now, next one we have the genotype and the phenotype. Now, talk about phenotype. Genotype. We're talking about the makeup, genetic makeup. Like for example, still on that previous one we use this person's the individual A's genotype is big B, small b. Individual B phenotype is big B, big B. Oh, sorry. Let me write it this way: big B, big B. While individual C is small b, small b. So this is what we call genotype, the genetic makeup or the type of gene they carry. Now, when we talk about phenotype is the physical expression of this gene. Physical expression of this gene, that's what we call phenotype. Now, it starts with the genotype, and the genotype will now manifest itself as a phenotype. Okay, so phenotype is the physical expression of the gene you carry. For example, if you're a girl, that means you have the gene that makes you a girl, which is X and Y. If you're a boy, that means you have the gene that makes you a boy, which is X and X. If you're tall, that means you are either homozygous tall or you are heterozygous tall. That's all I have to look at the genotype. Look at the genotype here. I see genotype. This is homozygous tall. This is heterozygous tall. If you are short, you are always homozygous recessive. Homozygous recessive. Okay. All right. I believe you understand that. I think okay. Let's go. We go on a short break. When we're back, we'll continue with the terminologies. All right. So see you in our next class. Bye.